So I've worked on big regeneration projects before where, build 1,000 units or so, but normally what you have is a master plan and then you submit planning for each single parcel of land on a phased basis. But this was all in one regeneration project, and the amount of work that went into that, the amount of reports, it was so big that we couldn't submit it, we couldn't upload the application on the planning portal. We had to burn CDs and send it to the council because it's just massive.
So it has been quite intensive, and I think the last, it's the last 9 months have been quite involved in terms of meetings and meeting people, meeting the council, meeting councillors, meeting the GLA, meeting amenity societies, having public exhibitions. All of that has been quite of an involved process.
One of the biggest challenges with planning, and what the planners requested and also what we wanted as an organisation, was that although the two architects have got very different brief, but it's one planning application. So there needs to be some coordination, and there needs to be some architectural language that actually makes the two buildings talk to each other and makes them to be seen in an holistic way.
It's a massive project which will ultimately deliver, Westminster's older persons affordable housing need for the next 20 years. So, that's the kind of scale we're talking about. It's a once in a generation project.
What C&C are doing is they're providing more family-sized private housing, which Westminster say they need, and also fantastic sheltered accommodation, which they also need. So it's a bit of a win-win for Westminster, and they're achieving that without public subsidy as well.
Dora House or Lodge Road is genuinely an innovative building. It's not what you normally get or associate with over 55s accommodation. I think that's the really interesting thing. And it takes time, investment, and dare I say guts to really kind of go that extra mile.
So the first element that makes it difficult was the relocation of the residents. The second is that technically it's a very, very difficult site. You've got a sewer that runs down one side of the site. You've got to build a very large block of 160 homes at the back on Lodge Road, and at the front you've got to build a high-end prime central London ceiling breaking development in St John's Wood. So you think about one of those projects on their own is incredibly demanding, but when you put those two things together, you begin to understand just how big the project is and how complicated it is.
One of the things that C&C want to do is elegant buildings. I mean, in my over 15 years experience in development, I've never been asked to build something elegant. It was about, build them quick, build them, structurally sound.
Now, if you see 60 St John's Wood, and they take you through the design they've done for the scheme, it's unbelievable. I mean, it looks, look at it and I'm so proud of it. And you look at Lodge Road and you think, that's an affordable housing block, but it looks better than anything else. It looks better than other private developments. The two are completely indivisible.
Interestingly, I thought that, it was my biggest planning submission in my career. But then I was talking to Deb Thomas from Arab, and I was talking to Raoul Vivers from Montague, and they were both saying that's their biggest planning submission.
I've found it quite shocking how much we've had to do to get to planning, and in sort of, having got everything in on Friday, reflecting on it over the weekend, I realised that I haven't done a planning application anything like this. The topics we had to cover was just enormous, and the detail we had to go into.
Make and Ryder have designed the buildings. Then Arup have effectively assessed noise, vibration. They've looked at archaeology. You look at existing trees.
Energy calculations. We've reported on ecology. We've reported on archaeology. We've reported on the ground conditions. We've reported on how you might build it, on basements and basement movements around the site and how that might affect neighbouring buildings. We've reported on a noise survey on the site and how that's impacted the design of both the facade and the ventilation. And because we've got railways not very far from us, we've reported on likely vibration. So that's ours are quite. Our reports are all really quite technical.
Everyone kind of had a sigh of relief, and because with any development, it's really difficult to get all the pieces together, especially at the last minute when you've got reports coming in from people, you've got drawings being finished off at the last minute, computer-generated images that are coming in as well. So to program that and the sheer logistics is quite a complex beast. So to actually bring it all together was a great feeling.
But effectively, you've got the planning application kind of drawings, which are the plans, the sections, the elevations, which are going to show what the building looks like and details all the materials. And then there's a supporting document called the Design and Access Statement, which is almost like a mini kind of book, which documents the design kind of process and journey we've been on as architects.
A lot of detail's gone into a lot of consultation, and every time a change is made or a development is made, then that has to be reconsulted on. Then we submit for planning, and then you enter a longer process. So first of all, there's what they call a validation, where someone goes through and checks that everything's there and everything's being met, and then you're logged into the system.
And then it goes to a planning committee, and it's determined in a very democratic way by elected members. But you cannot guarantee that the elected members have read all of the information that you've prepared. But you rely on the planning officers to put the case forward, given the case that you've put to them. We are challenging quite a few things in terms of heights of the buildings, size of the buildings, and also the form of housing that we're putting forward, because it's older people's sheltered accommodation.
Okay, it's not good news. The application got deferred on one ground, especially, which is the height of the private building on 60 St John's Wood.
Certain applications come here to be either determined as completely refused or approved, or in our case, we're in this kind of halfway stage of the kind of deferral process.
In an environment where you pick up the paper every single day and hear that there's a massive housing shortage, that we need to get Britain building quickly. Here we are with lots of roadblocks. This is normal in planning.
The good news in this whole is that it wasn't rejected, it was deferred. So basically they've told us to go away and rework certain things and then come back with a revised scheme.
So either we turn everything around in 2 weeks, or we're looking at a 2-month delay. And we're probably realistically looking at 2 months, because I think we've got quite a bit of work to do.
We're challenging. We've brought back 2 really big schemes. There's a lot for Westminster to contemplate tonight, and we need to provide more to help them contemplate it.
We've been working a long time on it, and it's a project kind of dear to our hearts, especially for Make in the office. It's just a really important project for us. And I think, there's that kind of social aspect of it being the kind of enabler for Dora House, which there's not many projects around that kind of have that. Normally you're just doing a private residential development separate from anything else, and there's no kind of impact on it. So
There's a huge amount of time invested in this, and lots of people's futures as well. So we can't give up. We've got to keep going.
We're going to go home, sleep on it, get up, and then we'll formulate a plan.
It's not going to stop us from delivering the scheme or doing what we're doing, just a bit more work and a little bit of delays. I couldn't sleep the night before, and from the early morning I had this hole in my stomach. And it was like that all day. I couldn't eat all day. I couldn't, it was just awful. That evening we were third on the agenda, so it took a long time before it got to us. And I just was sitting there, and it felt like an eternity. It was like surreal, because I was so nervous that it felt like as if you are there, but you are You're not. I can't even describe, it's just bizarre, you are hearing it, but you are hearing it as if you were not physically there. And sort of when I heard that you got permission, I had to look at the other sitting next to me. I said, like, have I heard it right? It's just, is it me? And then I saw them smiling. I said, okay, I did hear right then. And you feel like all that tension, all that, almost a year of tension on your shoulders suddenly starts disappearing. This has been my life for the last couple of years, not just mine, but we've, all the project team, everybody's invested so much. This is my baby.
We kind of left the last committee, well, you've got it on film, slightly down at heel, tail between our legs, feeling quite dejected actually that such a great project wasn't getting the support of the council.
The planners and the committee thought that the building on 60 SJW was too high, so they asked for us to take a story of our building.
We then had no choice but to address all the issues that were raised by the council, and it was 6 issues, and we just went through each of them and we've addressed them. We've worked with the council, we've demonstrated to the council that we want to work with them.
And it took a long time to get to an agreement and to go back to a planning committee, mainly because if by taking away one story from 60 St John's Wood would not make the scheme viable anymore. And in the end, what was decided by both parties is that what will make the scheme work was converting 17 flats into market rent or private accommodation.
We'll ultimately sell the site at 60 St John's Wood, and then somebody else will take on our baby, and we're going to be very precious about when that goes, and we'll all be really pleased because, for us, the planning's the start. What we've done today has been amazing, but for me, my role really starts now because 60 St John's Wood has got to be sold to the right developer to make the scheme viable and make the scheme deliverable, because there is no money from government funding the scheme. That's an amazing thing for a scheme of this size.
I've been doing this job for many, many years, but it is never a project been so close to my heart, and so, I get emotional about this. Because it's not just about bricks and mortar, it's about people and the connection we have made with the resident and what means to them and what means to us, because we are doing something very special there. We are breaking the barriers of institutional looking accommodation for the over 55. We're doing something innovative and something, so I feel very inspired by it, but not just me, everybody who works in the project, everybody who sort of comes across what we do in St John's Wood gets quite touched by it. It's about, what you give and how you are able to change somebody, make somebody's life much better.